Good morning. Hope this finds you well. Trying a new thing with video, a live recording of my screen. Today we'll be looking at audio editing with Audacity. But if you're not working in a Windows-based system, you have a Mac and you're using GarageBand, or if you're using a different audio editing app, many of the tools I'll show you today will be the same. What will change is the look of the control panel in the app. We'll begin with recording a track, and then we'll do some basic editing functions, including noise reduction, which lowers the overall level of background noise, normalization, which increases and evens out sound levels, and how to remove the occasional specific noise such as a breath from the track. We'll also take a quick look at using filters which alter the overall sound of the recording. Before you can edit a soundtrack, you have to create one. Many of you have computers with built-in microphones and cameras as the default devices. I do not. I have a plug-in USB microphone. USB microphones, if you need one, are relatively inexpensive and can be purchased in a variety of places, such as office supply stores like Staples. I got a pretty nice one for less than $20 at Radio Shack, and I have even seen them at Walmart. An Amazon search would undoubtedly turn up a variety of options. Just be aware that you don't need to spend $80 or more for a reasonable mic. If you have an external mic, you first need to select it as the desired device for recording, and you do that down here under the Start menu. You go to Settings, which is this little cog-shaped thing, and then you pick Devices, and in the audio section you find your microphone, and then you close the Settings menu. All right, now we're ready for our audio editor. If you haven't already done so, you'll need to download an appropriate app. Again, I recommend Audacity for Windows and for Mac, GarageBand. Okay. Now, unless you're using an absolutely basic editor, there are going to be a lot of unnecessary tools and options that we don't need. We're just going to pretend they're not there for now. There are a couple of things you may need to do, however. First off, this first box in Audacity should be set on Windows Direct Sound, not one of those other two. You need to make sure that your microphone is present. Okay, you get a little drop-down list here, you pick it. Now, if it is not available, what might have happened is you opened Audacity before you plugged in and selected your microphone. If that is the case, you go up here to the Transport tab and you go Rescan Audio Devices, and that should pull that microphone up into this list so you can select it. We are in fact doing a single mic, one channel recording, a mono recording, and this is your speaker output. Just leave that on the default, whatever it might be. Your mic volume is here. I keep mine pretty well cranked. I don't have a lot of distortion problems. You might need to adjust that. This is your speaker output. Set it at will. There is another thing you need to check, and that's also up here under the Transport options. You go to Transport options, and you need to be sure that software playthrough is off. If you have it turned on, what will happen is that as you record, it'll play back through your speakers and you will get an echo, which you probably don't want. And if you do, there's a much better way to create one. I'm going to click on this, turn it on so that you see what it looks like, and then come back. See, it's checked now, and turn it back off again. Okay, we're almost ready to record. A couple more things: pause button, play button, stop button. This takes your editing cursor back to the beginning of the track. This moves it to the end. Those are pretty handy tools when you get rolling. And then, of course, our record button. When you're ready to record, you'll press that button and then wait a couple of seconds before you actually start to speak. and we'll get to why. And at the end of the track, when you're done speaking, let it go a couple of seconds before you stop it. I'm using a poem for my sample here today. So it's called Cerulean. Cerulean, only rarely, a flash before dusk. Sometimes I think I see it in the metallic flecked paint of a pickup truck. I have seen it in picture postcard oceans and in small sapphires at the ears of girls with perfect teeth. I am afraid of water. Okay, so there's our basic soundtrack. Again, I'm going to go back to the beginning. Notice that these are 1 second increments, and I did in fact wait. I watched my cursor roll until I hit about 2 before I started speaking. And again, we'll figure out why that's important in a minute. Now, one of the first things that we would normally do to this is called normalize. And again, normalize takes the highest volume in this and moves it so it's just below distortion. First thing I need to do is select my track. Okay, turns everything white in Audacity. And then I go to Effect, Normalize. And you want to make sure these first 2 boxes are checked. And you want to make sure that this is -1 decibel. And again, it's going to take your recording volumes and raise them up, and it's going to take the loudest point in your track and bring it 1 decibel below the point where it would distort. You want a nice loud recording, but you don't want distortion. This last box down here is for stereo recording. We're not doing that, so it should be unchecked. And then press OK. Notice your wave file gets bigger. And notice too, as quiet as it is in my house, there's always some background noise. And it can be a lot more depending on the environment, but there's always something. There's the hum of the computer. There's, if you live in an apartment, you're facing the street, there might be traffic noise. No matter how hard you try to isolate yourself, there's always a little bit of something. So the next thing we're going to do is remove some of this background noise. And to do that, first off, I'm going to go back to the beginning. That takes my select off. And I'm going to go to a tool called noise reduction. And I get this prompt, select the audio for noise reduction. So I'm going to click OK. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a little of this background noise, and I do that by left clicking, holding the button down, and dragging. Okay, I've got that. Now I'm going to go back to Effects, back to Noise Reduction, and I'm going to get Noise Profile. Now that has captured that little bit of background noise so that the program now knows what to eliminate. I'm going to go back to Select and All. That will apply the noise reduction feature to my entire recording. Back to Effects, back to Noise Reduction, and this time I'm going to press OK. And notice how so much of that background noise went away. It also did affect my recording and my voice a little bit. Now, if you only do this once, that effect is almost impossible to hear, okay? But if you have a lot of background noise and you try and reapply and reapply and reapply noise reduction, it will affect the way your voice sounds. So try and avoid doing that. Try and be in the absolutely quietest environment you can possibly be in. Okay, now, and I hope this works, I'm going to play this back so that we can hear it. Cerulean, only rarely, a flash before dusk. Sometimes I think I see it in the metallic flecked paint of a pickup truck. All right, that's enough. All right, so we've got a pretty clean recording going on, but I noticed a couple of places where I could hear breaths, and I'm pretty sure one of them was here. So if I just click, that puts my play, the beginning of my play right there. I'm going to listen to that section again. Dusk. Sometimes. All right, now this little bit of recording right here, that's a breath. I'm going to select this section of the recording, and I'm going to come up to this little plus magnifying glass here, and that's going to make that bigger. It made the whole thing bigger, but it helps me see where that breath begins and ends, and I might even do it again. And now I'm going to select, again by left clicking, holding and dragging that breath, and then I'm going to come up to this little scissors icon, which is the cut tool, and I'm just going to cut it out. Okay, I'm going to go back down a little bit. That might have been too much. And I'm going to re-listen to this section. A flash before dusk. Sometimes. Okay, now that shortened that pause up, and that's actually the stanza break in my poem. So I want that pause to go back to being about as long as it was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select part of this silence. Believe me, there's still background noise there, but I'm going to refer to it as silence. And I'm going to come up here to this, and this is the copy function. And I tried to select an area that was about equivalent to what I had cut out. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put my cursor right here, and then I'm going to paste in another section that replaces that first section, but without the breath. And whenever possible, you want to take your sample as close to the place you're going to put it in as possible. That way, you know, if I'd have taken it from back here or at the beginning, there's a chance that the background noise changed a little bit and you could actually hear that. So I took it from as close to that place as I could. And now let's listen again. A flash before dusk. Sometimes. Okay, so that's gone. I also noticed that I've got a little tiny bit of intake breath here. I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. Again, that was a pretty small little space. Let's listen some more. A flash before dusk. Sometimes I think I see. Okay, this is another breath. I'm going to cut that little bit of noise out. And I'm going to take a sample. Again, I'm fairly close to that here. I'm going to copy and stick it back in. Okay, let's see how we're doing here. A flash before dusk. Sometimes I think I see it in the metallic fleck paint of a pickup truck. I have seen it in picture postcard oceans and in Okay, I can come down here to this scroll bar, scroll back. Again, I'm pretty sure I had a pretty big breath right here. And in small. I did. Okay, so I'm going to take this section, cut it out, sample a section close to it, and I didn't get nearly as much there, but I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it, and because I didn't get nearly as much, I'm going to paste again, and that should take me back about to where I was. Okay, again, I'm going to back up a little bit here, put my cursor down. Postcard oceans and in small sapphires at the ears of girls with perfect teeth. Oh, really big breath there. Okay. One thing I'm doing is I kind of look up here and I notice how long that section is using that little marker. And I cut that. And now I'm going to copy a section that is about equal in length. Just a little bit over the space between two of those marks. And yeah, it's kind of a guess, but that's okay. And repaste that space back in. Okay, I should have a pretty clean recording now. We're not going to re-listen to the whole thing, but there's still a couple of things that we need to do. And The first of those, of course, we've already done noise reduction. Sorry about that noise. We've already done noise reduction. We have already normalized, and we've cut out some various noises. One thing that I want to do is, now that I'm done, I want to take out some of this at the beginning, and I'm just going to highlight it and cut it out. I'm going to go to the end. I've got a little bit of noise here at the end. I'm going to take this out at the end. And then I'm going to do one more thing. Again, there's always background noise. As thin as that line looks, there's a little bit of noise playing in the background. And one thing I can do for my listener is I can take that and I go back to effects, and I'm going to use fade in. And we can't actually see it, but what has happened is that fade in feature takes it from absolute quiet to full volume within the space of the highlighted area. And that lets my listener kind of ease into my background noise. The recording doesn't just start with background noise, it eases up into the background noise. And at the end of the track, I'm going to get as close as I can to the end of my words there, and I am going to go to effects. I'm going to go fade out, and it's going to do that same thing. And again, this is just sort of to reduce any shock of hearable background noise on my listener. Okay, now, and again, sorry about the noise. I'm fooling with my speakers as I do this. I'm going to go back to the beginning, and we're going to think now about some of the filters that are available. And let's do a quick listen. It would help if I had my speaker volume up. Okay, let's try that again. Cerulean, only rarely. Okay, that's what it sounds like now. Now I'm going to highlight that first little section. I'm actually going to minimize things a little bit so I can see the whole poem. I'm going to minimize that first little section, and I told you that there was a better way to create an echo. This is it. Now you can preview this before you actually make one. Cerulean, only rarely. Okay, and it just gives you a little bit of a clip. Now the delay, that's the time between, you can change these features here so that I can actually make it a little bit shorter between when I originally say it and when it echoes. I'm not going to bother to do that. You can play with those as you like, but I'm going to go ahead and apply that to that section, and then I'm going to click another section, and we'll try a different tool. Okay, let's try this part, and let's pick a different one. How about distortion? Okay, now this does not give me any options for previewing it, and again, there's lots of little levels you can try. I'm just going to apply it, okay, and then I'm going to close this box, and we're going to listen to that section. A flash before dusk. Sometimes, okay, well, it increased the volume level to something above peak. See how the bottoms of these are flattened? Now, I didn't get a whole lot of distortion there, but there was a little bit. You heard a little tiny bit of distortion at the base range of that section. Now let's pick a different tool. Let's try something that's really kind of radical. Let's try reverse. And that does exactly what you might expect it to, and it's terribly disturbing. Okay, obviously not something you probably want to do, unless you're the Beatles and you're doing some backtracking. Now let's try a different one. Let's try let's do the wah-wah. Okay, and again, I'm just going to apply this and close the box, and we can listen to what this has done. I have seen it in picture postcard ocean and in small sapphires at the ears of girls with... Okay, so you see what that one did. Now, we we probably don't. I probably really don't want to do any of that to this poem. So here's the undo button, and I can click back through this, and I can undo every change I've made for quite a long time. This is my fade out. I don't want to change my fade out. Just to make sure that I didn't undo it, I'm going to click it again. Okay, so now we've got our entire poem. It's all nice and cleaned up, and it's been normalized. It's been noise reduced. Again, I've chosen not to use any filters. Those are just something you want to play with. I'll warn you, though, about filters. Don't use one just because it sounds cool. You should try and find one that somehow increases the effect you're going for. And if you can't find one, don't use one at all. Okay? Well, that's pretty much it for our sound editing with Audacity. I am going to do another video to create a layered soundtrack, but some of you will be interested in that and some of you won't, so I'm going to make it separate. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed. Cerulean, only rarely, a flash before dusk. Sometimes I think I see it in the metallic flecked paint of a pickup truck. I have seen it in picture postcard oceans and in small sapphires at the ears of girls with perfect teeth. I am afraid of water.